Hi, I'm Cathy Neptune, and welcome to my kitchen. I'm going to share with you tips, tools, and recipes to make your time in the kitchen fun, fast, and fabulous. And my favorite time of year is the bounties of summer. All kinds of things we're going to do. Lemons and zucchini and tomatoes. I hope you have a garden, or at least go and support your local farmers. They work hard, and the produce this year with our super hot weather has been outstanding. So I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to kind of swap things around for timing issues. And we're doing a stuffed zucchini with some wonderful sausage and some extras. And we're going to do a cobbler, a blueberry and lemon cobbler. Super easy, but so summery. And then some tomato toast for an appetizer. So what I want to do first, I have this beautiful zucchini. And you don't have to worry about all the measurements on the ingredients. I'll list them at the end of this video. But we're doing for 2 people today. And I've sprayed a pan here with some nonstick spray. And I'm going to trim the ends. And it's going to fit beautifully in there. And then I'm going to cut through the center of it, down the middle. And I have my oven preheating at 350. And we're going to start with dessert first, but I want to get these in the oven to pre-bake them. And there's a few ways that you can do. We want to hollow out this zucchini, and this is a fun tool that I have, and I want to start and make a boat style. And you can kind of scoop them out like this if you want. But if you don't have this tool, see how it comes out. And you can save these depending on how much filling you want. Or one of my favorite tools is this serrated, they call it a grapefruit spoon, and you can shave these, leaving a little edge over here and making a boat. Now, I'm going to save the insides of this zucchini, but I don't think we're going to need to use it because we've got tomatoes and onions and sausage, and I even did a little bit of orzo to put in there. So I think we'll have enough filling. So I'm going to do that. So you see, you make it fairly hollow. You want to have some of the zucchini, but look at how beautiful that is. I'm going to put that in there. Do the same for the other. On the end of this too, I have this little tomato core on the end. I love good tools. You're going to have good tools in your kitchen. If you're going to do a lot of cooking, or even if you don't, it makes it easy and fun to do. Okay, so that's pretty good, and nobody's going to see the interior anyway because we're going to stuff it. And this is going in here. So I have them like that, and then I'm going to sprinkle them with a little sea salt. And you can do this ahead of time if you find that your zucchini is a little watery. But I like it like this, just enough. And you can put them upside down or right side up, like that. And then, oh, you know what I want to do too? I have a little bit of Italian seasoning for flavor because we don't want them to taste plain. You really have to bump them up a little bit because they don't have much flavor. And then a little spritz of olive oil. You got to get one of these too. These are great. I have one for vegetable oil and one for olive oil. And we're going to pop this into our 350-degree oven for about 15 to 20 minutes, just to par cook them so they get a nice tender texture to them. And I'm going to put on the timer just because. And that's all there is to it. And that's going to be our zucchini. Now we're going to do our blueberry cobbler and get that into the oven. And let's see. I'm going to do our tray right here. Look at all our goodies here. Let's move these over. And the blueberries have been phenomenal this year. And what I have here, we're going to bake this in the oven, and it's just very few ingredients. You're going to love this. And you can use any kind of fruit. Today we're doing blueberries. And I have an oven-proof dish, a 9 by 13. This is probably an 8 by 10, and 5 tablespoons of butter. And we're going to melt this in the oven and preheat it. We're not mixing this in. And sometimes if you're leave it in for a little bit longer than just melting, it gets a little brown. And the brown butter gives this a great flavor. So I even like to brown the butter if I can. Now, here we have about 2 cups or a pint of fresh blueberries. Look at how beautiful these are. And a 1/4 cup of sugar. And then you want the zest of a lemon. And this is a great tool. Probably about 2 teaspoons, which you get from 1 lemon. And make sure you always wash your lemon and your limes and really any produce that you have. Get yourself a nice fine grater. This is great for garlic, lemon zest, Parmesan cheese. So about 2 teaspoons will be good. I'd say that's pretty good. And then we're going to do the juice of 1/2 a lemon. I'm using all my kitchen tools. Fresh lemon. Put it cut side down. And about 2 teaspoons is good. We want a lot of lemon flavor. And, oh, we got a little more sugar there. And then we're going to mix that up. And set that aside. Oh, that smells good. I love lemon. And then in a separate bowl, we're going to take 1 1/4 cups of flour, just regular flour. And we're going to make a batter to go in with, on top of our blueberries, or actually underneath. Then we have 2 teaspoons of baking powder. That'll give it a little lift. And basically what we're making is like a pancake batter without the eggs. And about a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Mix that together. 1/2 cup of regular sugar. Now here's a trivia question for you. If we were adding eggs, it wouldn't be called a cobbler, it would be called a clafouté, which the eggs make the batter rise a little bit like you would have a popover. But this is just a pretty regular cake batter. And on that, we're going to add a cup of whole milk. Going to add that a little at a time. Now this would be great with peaches. I've done it with blueberries and peaches. Raspberries are decadent with it. Anything but a hard fruit like an apple would take longer to cook than a berry would, or a soft fruit. You could do plums. Add the rest of the milk. And you can serve this with whipped cream or ice cream, or just dust it with a little powdered sugar at the end. So that is a pretty smooth batter. You don't need a mixer, just a whisk and a bowl. Okay, that's good. Our butter is melting in the pan, and when we come back, we're going to assemble this and put it back in the oven. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You can see how easy this is to melt the butter right in the pan, and it's screaming hot, so I leave those pot holders on there just to remind me. And then we're going to carefully pour this over the butter, and we're not going to mix this in. Okay, it's just going over. I have a little flour on the bottom here. And this is going to be like a cake type of deal on top. I think that's good. We're getting it all in there. And that butter is kind of going to help it puff up around the edges and give it a wonderful brown butter flavor. And then we're going to take our beautiful blueberries that have the sugar and more lemon zest and juice. And we're going to try and get an even layer over the top. This would be good with cherries too, if you have fresh cherries. Very nice. It's kind of like a pancake, but not. More like a cake batter. Now it's a good amount of blueberries and lemon and a little bit of sugar that's going to glaze. And then for a little crunch, I like some slivered almonds. And you can use any kind of nut or leave them out if you have allergies. And then we're going to pop this into the oven for about 30 minutes, and it'll puff up and be just nice. And I would like to serve this warm when it comes out of the oven. So we're going to put this in and get along and do our stuffed zucchini. So we'll be right back. Hi, welcome back. I've taken our zucchini out because I'm going to make a stuffing to go with it. And I thought it'd be easier to do on a flat surface. And I have my skillet heating up. And I have about a teaspoon of olive oil in the skillet. And I'm going to add a chopped red onion and 2 cloves of garlic just to soften them and release their flavor. It's always better to cook your onions and garlic. So I'm going to just lightly saute the onions. It's a little hot. And I'm going to add the garlic in a minute. And I'll show you what we have. I have here some pre-cooked Italian chicken sausage or turkey sausage. And I like to use the chicken or the turkey sausage because look at how lean that is. And I browned that ahead of time. And you all know how to brown some sausage. And then I have some breadcrumbs in case the filling, we're making a filling now for our zucchini. In case you want it to kind of be a little bit on the solid side, but not like a meatloaf solid. So that'll help bind it if it's too crumbly. I have some beautiful chopped fresh tomatoes from my garden. And sometimes when I'm using these in the summer, they're a bit juicy. What I do is cut them and salt them a little bit to take a lot of the moisture out of them. That's a good tip. And then drain them on a paper towel for a little bit. And then you don't get a watery tomato, especially when you're cooking. Something, and this is optional, either cooked rice or cooked orzo. I love orzo. It adds a little bit of texture and makes this this could be a whole meal because you have your protein with the sausage, you have your pasta, or you can certainly use a cooked rice. And not a lot of it, just enough because you can see here we don't have a lot of filling that we're going to make for these. A little bit of parmesan, a little bit of ricotta cheese. Let me see how these are doing. That's looking pretty good. I'm going to also add for flavor a little bit of tomato paste. I love getting these in the tube, the tomato paste, because a lot of times you don't use the whole can of tomato paste and you leave it in your refrigerator till it looks kind of wonky, then you throw it out and you don't feel guilty. So this is the way to go. So about a teaspoon of tomato paste, and that's going to give it a nice flavor that's going to support these tomatoes as well. And you always want to cook your tomato paste to get that raw flavor. And this is what it's looking like. You can see there's not a lot there, but again, we don't have a lot of filling. And you can certainly double or triple this recipe, but I thought it'd be nice to do a dinner for two. So that's what we're doing today. And then adding our 2 cloves of fresh garlic. Again, just in a garlic press is good, or you can chop it. And just let that cook for about a minute. And in our bowl, we're going to start with our ingredients. We're going to add, now keep in mind, these are our zucchini that we're going to stuff, so we don't need a lot. And if you have extra of the filling, you know what I would do? I take a beautiful tomato like this and hollow out the tomato and do a beautiful stuffed tomato or stuffed peppers this time of year. Perfect filling for stuffed peppers. So I'm gonna add that in like that. You know what? I'm gonna do the whole thing and make some stuffed peppers or stuffed tomatoes afterwards. And then chopped tomatoes. And again, I'm going to have all the ingredients at the end of this video. And a little bit of orzo. I love orzo. Do you ever have an orzo salad with cucumbers and tomatoes and onions? It's really good. Okay, I think we could do a little bit more orzo. Well, we're going to have plenty of stuffing. You can add peppers if you'd like, but I wanted to keep this simple. You can see our tomato paste and our onions and garlic. Add that in. And a lot of this you could do ahead of time. You could even bake your zucchini ahead of time. And all you do is assemble. Now at this point, I want to see, you can see it's fairly loose. And you can certainly stuff it like that. But you know what I like? I have here too a little bit of ricotta cheese. I'm going to add about a tablespoon of some ricotta cheese, and a little bit, I have a mixture of parmesan and mozzarella. I'm going to save a little bit for the top. Let's see how this looks. And let's add some fresh herbs from my garden. I have some fresh basil. Some of this is lemon basil, and some parsley, and I think I have some oregano. Here we go, is some oregano. I'm going to be making, remember we did one year, we did some herb butter. It's a good time of year to be doing your herb butters and putting them in the freezer. So you'll have them all year long. And you know what else I have in here? Do you know what this is? Let me see if I can find it. I have right here, do you know what this is? This is stevia. This is, they put this for a sugar substitute in a powder form, and this is so sweet, and I put it in lemonade in the summer. I dry it and use it as a sweetener. It's amazing. The flavor stays with you for about an hour. It is so super sweet. It tastes just like sugar, and I thought, that's a cool thing to have. That's my stevia. I thought that was really fun. So when your friends call and ask what you're doing, I'm growing stevia, and they think it's funny. But it's interesting. You know, you want to keep it interesting. So I'm doing just a little bit of fresh basil and oregano. Fresh oregano is very, very strong. And even though we season these with a little bit of Italian herbs, I always like to add a little bit of fresh herbs to this as well. So we're going to put that in, probably a teaspoon of each, more or less. This recipe is so forgiving. And I want you to be comfortable. Just, you know, measure with your heart, as they say. You know, just say, that looks good, it tastes good, it smells good. And make it your own, because that's the way you want to do. Okay, so that's our mixture, and I think that's going to hold together pretty well. And what I have here is a scoop, and I'm going to move this over so you can see. And you can see how soft and pliable these are because we pre-cooked them for about 15 minutes. And I find this is the easiest way to do it. And I'm going to scoop this mixture. And you can use a regular spoon if you'd like. And load it up, because this is like a main dish. And maybe we'll use all of it. This would be good on eggplant too. You could do slices of eggplant this way. You know, let me know what you're planting in your garden and harvesting in your garden, and let me know. It's so fun to hear from all of you on what you're doing and how you take these recipes and make them your own. I think that's really cool. So I'm going to take these and hopefully transfer them right back into the dish. Like so. Now most everything here is cooked. So what I'm going to do is, here's our breadcrumbs. I'm going to sprinkle that on the chop to give it a little texture and crunch. Just a little bit. Kind of like you do with eggplant parmesan. You like that little crust on top. And then the parmesan and mozzarella mix on the top. And even if you don't like zucchini, you're going to love this, because when people say they don't like something, I take it on as a challenge. And I think this is a keeper. So you try it and see. Now I'm going to spritz a little bit of oil on the top, olive oil, just so the top gets nice golden brown. And pop it in. And these, I'm going to put these in at 400, but we still have our cobbler, blueberry cobbler, in the oven at 350. We have about 5 more minutes. I'm going to bump up the oven to 400 for these. And these will really, all you're doing is warming everything up, because everything here is cooked. And the tomatoes are raw, but it doesn't really matter. So I'd say about 20 minutes and we're good to go. So we'll pop this in, take out our cobbler, and we'll be right back to start on our tomato toast. You're going to love it. We'll be right back. I thought, because we had all of this left over, I'm going to scoop out a tomato. And I think we're going to do a stuffed tomato. And you can use the grapefruit spoon if you want, but this is just easier. Why not use what we have, right? This was a juicy tomato. And then we're just going to pop this in the oven and bake this along with everything else. And so we've hollowed out the tomato, and then I'm just going to scoop the filling right inside. You always want to make a mess if you can. Okay, I'm going to set that, right in here. Press it down a little bit. This will make a nice lunch. A little breadcrumb. How easy is that? A little Parmesan, use up all our leftovers. Spritz a little oil. And then it goes for about 20 minutes and we're done. So when we come back, we're going to make our tomato toast. This is a fun little munchie to have for the summer with the tomatoes. We'll be right back. Hi, welcome back. It smells so good in here. We have herbs, we have lemon, we have a beautiful blueberry cobbler that came out. And we're going to do something fun. We're going to do tomato toast. This is a great appetizer. It's a great light lunch when you have plenty of tomatoes in the garden. And what I've done here is I took any kind of bread. This is like an oatmeal rye bread. And I spritzed it with a little olive oil and toasted on both sides. And that's the bed for our tomatoes, our tomato toast. And I have some nice ricotta cheese. I'm going to add a few things to the cottage cheese. You know what these are? These are, look at how tiny these are. Those are garlic chives from my garden. They're beautiful. I like doing things that are double purpose. So this is your onion and your garlic flavor, very mild all together. So I'm going to chop these. You could certainly use regular chives if you'd like. So I'm going to do probably about a good tablespoon or so. And I probably have 2/3 of a cup of the cottage cheese. And any kind would do if you want to do a low fat, or you could even do ricotta cheese if you'd like. But I like the cottage cheese. I'm going to chop that, and I have some fresh basil. Again, using herbs from my garden. Let's put that in. Oh, these smell so good. It smells just like garlic and chives. I'm going to do them all. And some of the basil I have here is lemon basil. And to this, we're going to actually add some lemon zest, which I think is kind of unusual. But it gives it a nice under flavor that you wouldn't expect. So we're doing that. And then we're going to do, very fancy, we're going to do stack up your basil. And this is probably going to be a tablespoon. And you roll it up. And we're going to do a chiffonade, which is just a fancy word for little strips of basil. And we're going to save this for the top because I think it looks really pretty on the top. Set that aside. And then let's use some zest. Not very much, probably the zest from half a lemon. And this you could do ahead of time too. You can toast your bread just a little bit. We don't want it to, like, you taste it and it's like, oh, that's lemon, it's dessert. Nope, we just want a little bit to enhance the flavor. I'm going to set that aside. And then, do you remember this hack? I'm going to see if this works. You need a very, very sharp knife, extremely sharp. We're going to take our tomatoes and put them on the bottom. We took a regular plate and turned it upside down so there's a little rim. And then you turn that upside down and you kind of press a little bit to hold them in place. And you do perpendicular with your knife. And if you're lucky, you come out, oops, with some sliced tomatoes. And those are going to go on here. Oh, I didn't angle it enough. Oh, well, we got a few. Guess we'll do these by hand. I didn't angle the knife enough. And you can use regular tomatoes if you want, but I like these little ones because they are not as juicy as a regular one. See, I did halfway through, but I didn't hold my knife straight enough. I angled it. But that's okay. It's all fixable. These are so sweet. They're called sun gold tomatoes. Look at how beautiful they are. Look at inside. They look like sunshine, don't they? Very nice. And there's nothing as satisfying as going out to your backyard and picking your own fruits and vegetables and herbs. Saves you a run to the grocery store. Nothing wrong with that. So that's all. We made quick work of that. I have to practice on that one. And then we're going to add a little bit of salt. And I like the coarse ground salt, the sea salt. Just a pinch, enough to flavor them. How about some fresh pepper too? Some nice fresh pepper. That's good. And then, although we have the garlic chives, just a little bit of garlic powder, just to give it another level of flavor. And then we're going to assemble this. Take our toast, make sure that's mixed. And I wouldn't do this too far ahead. You want to do your toast and all the elements together and assemble this just before. Like I said, this is just a nice, refreshing, light lunch or an appetizer. And it's all from your garden. And I don't know if I mentioned, but I did spritz a little bit of olive oil on the toast to give it a little flavor. And you don't want to cook your toast. I did them in a skillet. You don't want to make them so that they're hard as a rock. You want just a little bit of browning and flavor. It gives them a nice flavor. And that is good. And then we're going to take and put our tomatoes on the top. If you use a regular, like a large tomato, you want to cut them small enough so that they fit right on top of the toast. And I'd say about 2 on each one is plenty. This would be pretty with red tomatoes, or you have there's a variety called chocolate tomatoes, and they're dark brown, and oh, are those ever sweet. They're so good. I like to pick my tomatoes right from the plant, and they're warm from the sun. It's just so luxurious to have your fresh tomatoes warm from the sun. That looks good enough to eat. And then a little bit of Parmesan on each. I would serve this with a beautiful glass of wine out on the patio on date night or an evening, a Friday evening. That is a special treat. And it's not difficult. It doesn't take a lot of time or energy. And then what I have here is a balsamic glaze, and you can make your own if you'd like. This is store-bought. And from on high, we're just going to drizzle restaurant style. And a little chiffonade of fresh basil. And some in here is regular basil and lemon basil. That is beautiful. Look at that. How easy, how healthy. It's light. What a great flavor combination. And those homegrown cherry tomatoes, or go to your farmer's market, they make this. And you're going to love the little hint of lemon zest that you're not going to expect. I hope you try this. This is a great recipe. Our stuffed zucchini boats are ready. We have our blueberry and lemon cobbler. It's going to be a feast. This is summer at its best. We'll be right back. Hi, welcome back. Look at our summer feast here. This looks spectacular. Remember our tomato toast with some chives and cottage cheese, a little lemon zest, Parmesan, a drizzle of balsamic. That's a great starter. And don't forget to have some wine when you have that. This was our little leftovers that we have. Look at how nice the tomato roasted up. We used the stuffing from our zucchini. I'm going to plate this. Use 2 spatulas for this. That is beautiful. That's a whole meal with our chicken sausage, Italian chicken sausage, and some orzo, tomatoes, herbs. That's a whole meal. And then I'm going to take, this is our, look at our beautiful cobbler. And I'm just going to take a little powdered sugar, our blueberry and lemon cobbler. And I like to serve this warm. With, you could put whipped cream, or you could do, the plate is hot, a little whipped cream if you want. You can do it just like this, but I like to serve it with a beautiful dollop of vanilla ice cream on the side. That is summer. Look at this. And don't forget, you have the option of doing stuffed peppers if you'd like. Take advantage of your summer season and enjoy every different variety and flavors and textures. It's healthy, it's homemade. Share it with your friends and your neighbors. And I hope you try these recipes. Thank you so much to everybody who watches and sends in their comments. I read them all. I appreciate them. Thank you for watching, and may the fork be with you.